your life, the life you author from scratch on your own, begins. How will you use your gifts? What choices will you make? Will inertia be your guide, or will you follow your passions? Will you follow dogma, or will you be original? Will you choose a life of ease, or a life of service and adventure? Will you wilt under criticism, or will you follow your convictions? Will you bluff it out when you're wrong, or will you apologize? Will you guard your heart against rejection, or will you act when you fall in love? Will you play it safe, or will you be a little bit swashbuckling? When it's tough, will you give up, or will you be relentless? Will you be a cynic, or will you be a builder? Will you be clever at the expense of others, or will you be kind? I was working at a financial firm in New York City with a bunch of very smart people, and I had a brilliant boss I much admired. I went to my boss and told him I was going to start a company selling books on the internet. He took me on a long walk in Central Park, listened carefully to me, and finally said, "That sounds like a really good idea, but it would be an even better idea for someone who didn't already have a good job."
If I were working with a small amount of money, the universe would be huge compared to the universe of possible ideas I work with now. You mentioned that 56 to 69 was the best period. Actually, my best period was before that. It was from right after I met Ben Graham in early 1951. But from the end of 1950 through the next 10 years, actually returns averaged about 50% a year. And I think they were 37 points better than the Dow per year, something like that. But that I was working with a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of money. And so I would pour through volumes of businesses, and I would find one or two that I could put $10,000 into or $15,000 into that were just ridiculous. They were ridiculously cheap. And obviously, as the money increased, the universe of possible ideas started shrinking dramatically. The times were also better for doing it in that time. But I think if you're working with a small amount of money with exactly the same background that Charlie and I have, and same ideas, same whatever ability we have, I think you can make very significant sums. But as soon as you start getting the money up into the millions, many millions, the curve on expectable results falls off just dramatically.
There's nothing like following your passion. I mean, I love what I do, obviously, and I've loved it the whole time I've done it. Charlie is the same way. We have managers, they come. Some of them went to business school, some of them didn't. They're all types. But the common factor, they're successful. The common factor is they love what they do, and you've got to find that in life. And some people are very lucky in finding it very early. It was dumb luck that my father happened to be in the securities business. So when I would go to his office, there were a lot of books to read, and I got entranced with that. But, if he'd been in some other occupation, I think I would have read those books eventually, but it would have been a lot later. So if you find something that turns you on, my guess is you're going to do very well. And then the beauty of it is, in a sense, there's not that much competition. I mean, there are not a lot of people out there that are going to be running faster than you in the race that you elect to get into. And if you haven't found it yet, you may well have found it. But if you haven't found it yet, you've got to keep looking. And we've got 70 plus managers. Some of them didn't. We had one guy that didn't go to high school even, didn't they? Charlie and Rosner.
Oh, yeah.
He quit in fourth grade, I think.
Yeah.
But, Mrs. B never went to school a day in her life, and when you go out to the Furniture Mart, I hope you go out this evening. We expect to set a record today in sales. What you are looking at on those 78 acres, is the largest home furnishing store, about 400 million of sales, largest store in the United States. And it comes from $500 of capital paid in by a woman that never went to school a day in her life and couldn't read or write. I mean, she loved what she was doing. And, I tell the story. This is a true story. When she was well into her 90s, she invited me over to her house for dinner. That was very unusual. Had a very nice house, 6 or 7 blocks away from the store. And I went into the house, and the sofa, the chairs, the lamp, the dining room table. They all had little green price tags hanging down. It made her feel at home. And I said to her, Mrs. B, you are my kind of woman, yeah? Forget Sophia Loren, all the rest. I mean, this is my kind of woman. She loved it, and she loved it all her life. And just think of what that produced. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, one time my dad used to quote Emerson that the power that lies within you is new in nature, and basically the power that was within Mrs. B was new in nature. And over a lifetime, it produced amazing things. So find your passion, and then don't let anything stop you.
You get certain gifts in life and you want to take advantage of those, but I guess my advice on adversity and success would be to be proud not of your gifts, but of your hard work and your choices. So, you may be, the kinds of gifts you get in life, you might be really good at math. It might be really easy for you. That's a kind of gift. But practicing that math and taking it to the next step, that could be very challenging and hard, and take a lot of sweat. That's a choice. You can't really be proud of your gifts because they were given to you. You can be grateful for them and thankful for them. But your choices, you choose to work hard. You choose to do hard things. Those are choices that you can be proud of. It's a military phrase that I especially love, and it says, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I have seen that in every endeavor I've ever been in. That's the kind of thing that really allows you to make progress. If you don't love your work, you're never going to be great at it. Jules Verne, Mark Twain, Galileo, Newton, all the curious from the ages would have wanted to be alive, most of all, right now. As a civilization, we will have so many gifts, just as you as individuals have so many individual gifts as you sit before me. How will you use these gifts? And will you take pride in your gifts or pride in your choices?
The biggest mistakes are the ones that actually don't show up. They're the mistakes of omission rather than commission. We've never lost that much money on any one investment, but it's the things that I knew enough to do that I didn't do. We have missed profits of as much as, maybe $10 billion in things that I knew enough to do and I didn't do. Now, the fact I didn't buy Microsoft way back is not a foregone opportunity because I didn't know enough to make that decision. But there have been other investments where I did know enough to make the decision, and for one reason or another, I either didn't do it at all or I did it on a small scale. I was sucking my thumb when I should have been writing checks, basically.
Your life, the life you author from scratch on your own, begins. How will you use your gifts? What choices will you make? Will inertia be your guide, or will you follow your passions? Will you follow dogma, or will you be original? Will you choose a life of ease or a life of service and adventure? Will you wilt under criticism, or will you follow your convictions? Will you bluff it out when you're wrong, or will you apologize? Will you guard your heart against rejection, or will you act when you fall in love? Will you play it safe, or will you be a little bit swashbuckling? When it's tough, will you give up, or will you be relentless? Will you be a cynic, or will you be a builder? Will you be clever at the expense of others, or will you be kind?